What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Factor. I'm Matt Gagnon. That's Michael Gage, and this is a special edition. Drew Bay, the quarterback of the Merrimack college football team, is joining us today. We're going to talk about some Week 4 matchups, and then we're going to talk about some college football today.
Before we get into college football, let's quickly talk about a player that surprised us the most from this week. Matt, which player surprised you most from the Week 4 matchups?
All right, I have a few players that really surprised me this week, but I think most of all it's Joe Mixon. Finally performing to his standards that the players were hoping that he would and that fantasy owners were hoping he would. 151 yards in 2 touchdowns and another 6 receptions for another 30 yards and another touchdown with 42.1 points. Just amazing production for a player that hadn't really been all season.
And then, so for me, it was Odell Beckham Jr. He had over 150 yards on the ground and catching the ball. He had 3 touchdowns, first multi-touchdown game since joining the Browns, and we hope it's not his last. And so, all right, so now for the top 10 players of Week 4, teams are definitely happy to see these players perform well. So first we have Joe Mixon, 42.1 points. George Kittle, 40.1. Odell Beckham Jr., as I mentioned earlier, 38.4. Dak Prescott, 38.3, throwing for 500 yards. Still losing, though. And then we got Robert Tonyan, 33.8. The tight end from Green Bay showed off in the win against the Falcons.
Next we have Tom Brady with 33.5, showing vintage Brady finally. Amari Cooper, 33.4, one of Dak's primary receivers in his 500-yard loss to the Browns. Aaron Rodgers, 29.6. DJ Chark Jr., after an injury, kept him sidelined. He showed that didn't slow him down. Dalvin Cook, 28.6, proving again and again that he's valuable when he's not injured.
All right, for our next segment, we're just going to name 2 or 3 players who we predict should start in Week 5. So I'm going to go first on this one. I'm looking for the Seahawks receiving corps to have a big week, specifically Lockett and Metcalf. They've been really spectacular so far, and I really don't see them slowing down. And then another player I would pick is Kyler Murray, simply because he's playing the New York Jets. New York Jets have not had a strong defense, not really a strong team, and I think he's going to find himself in the top 10.
All right, I agree with you, Mike. I expect that Russell Wilson will continue his great MVP caliber season and go off against average at best Minnesota defense. If you don't start Russell Wilson already, I'm not sure why, but I think you should definitely start him this week. Secondly, I think Robbie Anderson has had a surprisingly good first season with the Carolina Panthers, with Teddy Bridgewater throwing to him. I think you can expect another good game against the Falcons this week. I definitely recommend starting him if you have room.
So now we'd like to welcome the quarterback of our very own Merrimack college football team, Drew Bay.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for joining us today. So how about we talk some college football?
Yeah, let me start off by saying obviously it's a very rough time with coronavirus and stuff like that. And since we aren't out there on the field every Saturday, some of my favorite teams to watch have been Oregon, Stanford, LSU, Penn State. We are.
All are great teams. Obviously, I couldn't agree more with Oregon,
Right.
but I'm a Notre Dame, Clemson fan, so Stanford, LSU might
Right.
kind of be questionable for me.
Really had to throw in that we are in there.
Yeah, we are.
I can't really get behind Penn State, but those other teams you mentioned, obviously great programs, and I love
Right.
watching them. So.
Right. Obviously, it's been a great year to have college football back for some. So this week, the top 3 games, we'll start with one, Alabama or Ole Miss. I think this is going to be a very good offensive game, but I got Alabama coming out with the win. Secondly, we have Oklahoma and Texas. Texas lost to TCU last week, but Oklahoma's defense is very rough right now and very shaky. So I got Texas winning that. And the last game will be my top game is Miami and Clemson. Derek King has been great this year, but I think Clemson is going to come out with the win.
All right, man. Well, I really appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you.
Had a lot of fun. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you in the spring. Hopefully, it kind of stinks that we can't see you in the fall, but
Yeah.
thanks for joining us.
Yeah, anytime you guys can have me, I'll be here.
Great.
Thank you.
And then thank you guys for tuning in for this week's special edition of Fantasy Factor. I'm Mike. He's Matt. This is Drew Bay, and we'll see you next week on MCTV Sports.